The diplomatic hall buzzed with voices from 100 different worlds. Dr. Rebecca Foster adjusted her identification badge and took a deep breath. 3 months ago, nobody on Earth knew that aliens existed. How she stood in a space station orbiting a planet called Refuge, surrounded by creatures that shouldn't exist outside of science fiction novels. "You ready for this?" Ambassador David Okonkwo asked beside her. His dark suit looked almost plain compared to the colorful robes and biological features of the alien diplomats around them. "As ready as I'll ever be," Rebecca replied. She felt Bear shift beside her left leg. The German shepherd wore his service vest, his dark eyes scanning the crowd with professional calm. After her accident 2 years ago, Bear had become more than a companion. He was her stability, her support, her constant helper. The doors to the main council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Species from across the galaxy filed inside, their conversations creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and translated words through the communication devices everyone wore. Rebecca followed the human delegation, Bear walking perfectly at her side. They were halfway to their assigned seats when everything changed. A tall, bird-like alien with silver feathers and 3 eyes froze in the aisle. Its head swiveled toward Bear with mechanical precision. The translator caught its sharp intake of breath. "Predator," it said. The word cut through the noise like a knife. Silence spread across the chamber like a wave. Hundreds of alien eyes turned toward the human delegation. More specifically, toward Bear. "What is that creature?" The bird-like alien's voice carried a tremor. "Why have the humans brought a hunter into this place of peace?" Rebecca felt confusion wash over her. "This is Bear. He's my service dog. He helps me with..." "Service?" Another alien interrupted, this one covered in scales that shifted from blue to red. "You force a killer to serve you. This is barbaric." Ambassador Okonkwo stepped forward, his hands raised in a calming gesture. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Perhaps we should..." "There is no misunderstanding." The scaled alien, whose badge identified him as Counselor Talus, moved back several steps. "I have studied Earth's fauna, Canis lupus familiaris, descended from apex pack hunters, teeth designed to tear flesh, jaw strength capable of crushing bone, and the humans bring one here as if it were nothing." Bear sat calmly at Rebecca's side, his tail giving a slight wag. He had no idea he was causing an intergalactic incident. The bird-like alien, Scholar Nimrith according to his credentials, moved closer but kept a careful distance, his middle eye fixed on Bear with intense focus. "How do you control it? What technology prevents it from attacking?" "Technology?" Rebecca felt lost. "He's trained. He's gentle. He would never..." "Never?" Nimrith's feathers ruffled. "It is a predator. Predators kill. This is fundamental nature. You cannot train away millions of years of evolution. We've been partners with dogs for 40,000 years, Okonkwo said carefully. They're part of our families. They live in our homes. Children grow up with them." The chamber erupted. Aliens spoke over each other in a dozen languages, the translators struggling to keep up. Words like insane and dangerous and unnatural filtered through the chaos. An elderly alien with skin like polished stone raised one hand. The room fell silent immediately. "I am High Judge Morven," she said. Her voice carried absolute authority. "This council will come to order." Everyone found their seats. Bear remained sitting, unbothered by the commotion. Rebecca put her hand on his head, drawing comfort from his warm fur. Judge Morven's ancient eyes studied Bear for a long moment. "In my 300 years on this council, I have never witnessed such a disturbance. Scholar Nimrith, you have studied Earth's biology. Please explain to this assembly what we are dealing with." Nimrith stood, his feathers still showing signs of agitation. "The creature the humans call a dog is indeed descended from wolves, one of Earth's most successful pack predators. They hunt in coordinated groups using strategy and endurance. They have excellent senses, powerful jaws, and natural weapons." He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's wolves hunting. Several aliens gasped. "The domesticated version retains these capabilities. Yet the humans claim they have made these creatures safe through training." "Not just safe," Rebecca said, finding her voice. "Dogs are loyal, loving, and intelligent. They help us in countless ways. Bear assists me with my disability. Other dogs help blind people navigate. Some detect diseases. Others work in search and rescue, finding people trapped in disasters. You give predators access to your weak." Talus sounded horrified. "To your injured?" We trust them with our children, Okonkwo added. The silence that followed was deafening. A new alien spoke up, an insectoid creature with multiple limbs. I am Counselor Shess. This trust you describe makes no sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Predators and prey do not bond. They cannot. It violates the fundamental laws of survival. Dogs aren't our prey, Rebecca said. They're our companions. Our friends? You befriend killers, Nimrith said slowly as if testing the words. You take apex predators into your homes and call them friends. Yes, Rebecca said simply. We do, Judge Morven stood. This matter is too serious for casual discussion. The presence of a tamed predator on this station raises questions about human judgment, safety protocols, and psychological stability. I am calling a formal inquiry. The humans will present evidence of their relationship with these creatures. We will determine if humanity's practices represent a danger to this council. Danger? Okonkwo's voice rose. Bear has never hurt anyone. He's one of the gentlest souls I've ever met. You attribute a soul to a predator? Talus said. This only proves our concerns are valid. Rebecca looked down at Bear. He gazed back at her with complete trust and affection, the way he had every day since they'd met. To her he was family. To the galaxy he was apparently a monster she'd somehow brainwashed into submission. We'll comply with your inquiry, she said quietly, and we'll prove that you're wrong about dogs. About all of it, Nimrith's three eyes blinked in sequence. I am a scientist, Dr. Foster. I follow evidence, not emotion. If you can demonstrate that your relationship with predators is truly safe and beneficial, I will accept that conclusion. But understand this is unprecedented in galactic history. No species has ever claimed to befriend their natural enemies. Then maybe, Rebecca said, scratching Bear behind his ears, you're about to learn something new about what friendship really means. The inquiry was set for the following day. As the human delegation left the chamber, Rebecca could feel hundreds of eyes on Bear. Eyes filled with fear, curiosity, and disbelief. Tomorrow they would have to explain 40,000 years of partnership to species who couldn't imagine trusting a predator. Tomorrow they would have to make the galaxy understand something Earth had known since the first wolf approached a human campfire. Sometimes the deadliest creatures make the best friends. Rebecca couldn't sleep. The station's artificial night cycle meant nothing to her racing mind. She sat in their assigned quarters watching Bear sleep peacefully on his bed in the corner. His chest rose and fell with steady breaths, completely unbothered by the fact that an entire galactic council considered him a dangerous weapon. A knock at the door made her jump. Bear's ears perked up, but he didn't bark. He never did unless she was in danger. Lieutenant Ashley Rodriguez stood in the hallway, still in uniform. Figured you'd be awake. Mind if I come in? Rebecca waved her inside. Ashley had been part of the security detail, a former military police officer who'd worked with military dogs for years. This is insane, Ashley said, sitting across from Rebecca. I've been reading through the council's literature. They have police forces. They have security. But not one species uses animals for anything except food or labor. The concept of a working partnership with another species just doesn't exist. How is that possible? Rebecca asked. Surely somewhere in the galaxy. Nope. Ashley pulled up her datapad. I've been researching all night. Most species are either predators or prey, and that defines everything about their society. The predator species see prey animals as resources or threats. The prey species see predators as enemies to avoid or destroy. Nobody's ever tried to bridge that gap. We didn't try, Rebecca said, looking at Bear. It just happened. Wolves started hanging around human camps for scraps. The tamer ones got closer. Over generations, we changed each other. Try explaining evolution to species who think nature is fixed and unchangeable, Ashley said. That's what you're up against tomorrow. The inquiry began at what the station called mid-cycle. The chamber was packed. Apparently, word had spread, and now representatives from dozens of species wanted to witness the proceedings. Judge Morven presided from her elevated seat. Nimrith sat at a panel with 3 other scholars, including a younger bird-like alien who kept stealing curious glances at Bear. This inquiry will determine if humanity's practice of maintaining predators as companions represents a danger to galactic peace and safety, Morven announced. Dr. Foster, you may present your case. Rebecca stood, Bear beside her. She'd spent hours preparing a presentation with Okonkwo's help. The holographic display activated, showing images from Earth. 40,000 years ago, give or take, humans and wolves began a relationship that changed both species forever, she began. We didn't conquer them. We didn't enslave them. We formed a partnership based on mutual benefit. The display showed ancient cave paintings of humans and canines hunting together. Early dogs helped humans hunt. They warned us of dangers. They kept our camp safe. In return, we shared food and shelter. Over thousands of years, we bred dogs for specific traits: herding, guarding, tracking, companionship. They evolved alongside us, and we evolved with them. A clip played showing a border collie herding sheep, then a bloodhound tracking a scent, then a retriever bringing back a duck for a hunter. Each video made the alien audience murmur with disbelief. But dogs aren't just working animals, Rebecca continued. They're family members. They comfort us when we're sad. They celebrate with us when we're happy. They ask for nothing except food, care, and affection. The display showed children playing with dogs in a park, an elderly person walking slowly with a small dog on a leash, a veteran sitting with a service dog, both of them calm and peaceful. You show us predators acting tame, Talus said. This proves nothing except that you have broken their spirits. Broken? Rebecca felt anger flash through her. Bear isn't broken. Show the neurological scans. A new image appeared showing brain activity in both a human and a dog during interaction. The patterns mirrored each other in striking ways. When humans and dogs interact, both species release oxytocin, Rebecca explained. It's the same hormone that bonds parents to children. Our brains literally respond to dogs the same way they respond to family. And their brains respond to us the same way. Nimrith leaned forward. Are you saying the predator experiences attachment to humans? Yes, Rebecca said firmly. Dogs love us, not because we control them, but because we've evolved together to form genuine emotional bonds. Impossible, declared another council member, a creature with multiple tentacles. Predators do not form cross-species emotional attachments. They tolerate allies at best. Then explain this, Ashley said, standing. She pulled up footage from Earth. This is from last year. A toddler fell into a frozen pond. The family dog jumped in immediately, pulled the child to shore, then laid on top of her to keep her warm until help arrived. The dog nearly died from hypothermia. Why would a predator risk its life to save prey? The chamber went quiet. Because the child wasn't prey, Rebecca said softly. She was pack. She was family. More footage played. Dogs rescuing people from fires. Dogs guiding blind people around obstacles. Dogs detecting seizures before they happened and alerting their humans. Dogs visiting hospitals and nursing homes, bringing comfort to the sick and elderly. We have thousands of documented cases of dogs saving human lives, Okonkwo added, often at great risk to themselves. This isn't training or conditioning. This is genuine care and loyalty. The young alien beside Nimrith, whose badge read Pip, raised a tentative wing. May I ask a question? Judge Morven nodded. Dr. Foster, does your dog obey you because he fears you? No, Rebecca said. Bear, come. Bear stood and walked to her side. Sit. He sat, tail wagging. Now watch. Rebecca walked to the other side of the room and sat down. Bear, stay. Bear remained sitting, though his eyes followed her. He obeys because he trusts me, Rebecca said. Not because of fear or force. Because we have a relationship built on mutual respect and affection. Bear, come. Bear bounded across the room, tail wagging furiously. Rebecca knelt and scratched his ears. Bear leaned into her touch, eyes half closed in contentment. Several aliens flinched back, but Pip stood slowly. May I approach? That's not safe, Nimrith said quickly. With respect, scholar, we cannot understand this phenomenon from a distance. Pip moved toward Rebecca and Bear with cautious steps. Bear watched the alien approach, ears forward with curiosity. No growling. No aggression. Just interest. Let him smell your hand, Rebecca instructed. Dogs learn about the world through scent. Pip extended one wingtip toward Bear. The German shepherd sniffed carefully, then looked up at Rebecca for guidance. Good boy, she said softly. Bear's tail wagged. He took a small step toward Pip, movement slow and gentle. Pip's feathers trembled. He's looking at me. He's being friendly, Rebecca said. You can pet his head if you want. Pet? Touch him gently. Dogs like affection. Pip's wingtip barely brushed Bear's head. Bear held still, accepting the touch. Then he did something that made the entire chamber gasp. He licked Pip's wingtip. Pip jumped back, then stopped. What was that? That's how dogs show affection, Rebecca said, smiling. He likes you. A predator showed me affection. Pip sounded stunned. Yes, Rebecca said simply. Nimrith stood slowly, all three eyes wide. This requires further investigation. Judge Morven, I request permission to conduct a more comprehensive study. These humans claim their entire species maintains this relationship with predators. If true, we need to understand the full scope. What are you proposing? Morven asked. I wish to visit Earth, Nimrith said, to observe these human-animal relationships in their natural context. To see if this phenomenon is limited to trained individuals or if it represents something fundamental about humanity. Talus stood abruptly. You would go to their world? Surrounded by these creatures? It's too dangerous. Science requires risk, Nimrith replied. If humans have truly achieved something unprecedented in galactic history, we must understand it. Judge Morven considered this. Very well. A small delegation will travel to Earth for observation. You have 1 week to prepare your report. This inquiry will reconvene upon your return. As the session ended, Pip approached Rebecca again. Dr. Foster, may I join the delegation to Earth? Of course, Rebecca said. Pip looked down at Bear. What's it like? Having a predator as a friend? Rebecca smiled. It's like having someone who's always happy to see you. Who never judges you, who would protect you without question. It's one of the best relationships humans can have. I want to understand that, Pip said quietly. Watching the young aliens wonder, Rebecca felt hope bloom in her chest. Maybe the galaxy could learn after all. Maybe they could see what humans had always known. Friendship doesn't care about teeth or claws. It only cares about trust. The shuttle broke through Earth's atmosphere during sunset. Nimrith pressed against the viewport, all three eyes focused on the planet below. Beside him, Pip couldn't stop fidgeting with nervous excitement. Behind them sat Counselor Shess and 2 other observers, all silent with anticipation. I've studied your world for months, Nimrith said to Rebecca, but seeing it is different. Wait until you see the animals, Rebecca replied. They landed at a facility outside Denver where Senator Helen Cross waited to greet them. She was a practical woman in her 60s, who'd been chosen as Earth's liaison because she grew up on a ranch and understood working with animals. Welcome to Earth, Helen said warmly. We've prepared several locations for your visit. I hope you're ready to have your minds changed. We are scientists, Nimrith said. We follow evidence, not preconceptions. Good, Helen smiled. Because you're about to see a lot of evidence. The first stop was the facility itself. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a veterinary specialist, gave them a tour of what humans called an animal hospital. This is where we treat sick or injured animals, Yuki explained, leading them through clean, bright rooms. In one area, a woman held a small dog while Yuki examined its leg. The dog whimpered but didn't struggle. You heal predators? Shess asked, mandibles clicking with confusion. We heal our companions, Yuki corrected. This little one broke her leg. We'll set it, and in a few weeks she'll be running around again. Running around where? Pip asked. In her home, Yuki said. With her family. They moved to another room where a large dog lay on a table unconscious. A technician monitored equipment while another worked carefully on the dog's abdomen. Surgery? Nimrith sounded shocked. You perform surgery on predators? This is Bailey, the surgeon said without looking up. He swallowed something he shouldn't have. We're removing it. He'll be fine in a few days. How much does this cost? Shess asked. The surgery? About $3,000, the surgeon replied. And who pays for medical treatment for a predator? His family, the surgeon said. They love him. They want him healthy and happy. The aliens exchanged looks that transcended species. The concept seemed to break something in their understanding of the universe. Outside the facility, the real education began. Helen had arranged for them to visit a working farm an hour away. The drive took them through suburban areas where Pip spotted dozens of humans walking dogs on sidewalks. There are so many, Pip breathed. Predators everywhere, and humans just walk among them. There are about 70 million dogs in the United States alone, Rebecca said. Nearly 40% of households have at least one. 40%? Nimrith's translator barely kept up with his shocked tone. How many humans die from these predators each year? About 30 to 50, Rebecca said. Usually from accidents, not attacks. You're more likely to die from a cow or a bee sting than from a dog bite. Cows? Shess asked. What are cows? Helen grinned. You're about to find out. The ranch belonged to Luis Mendoza, a third-generation rancher who'd been briefed on their alien visitors but took it in stride. He stood by a fence surrounded by what Nimrith's database identified as massive herbivores called cattle. These are cows, Luis said, gesturing to the herd grazing peacefully, about 200 head. Each one weighs around 1,200 pounds. A cow walked up to the fence. Luis reached out and scratched between its ears. The cow leaned into his touch, making a low sound of contentment. You keep prey animals? Nimrith asked. For milk and meat, yes, Luis said honestly. But that doesn't mean we treat them badly. These girls have good lives. They're healthy, well-fed, and cared for. And the predators? Pip asked. Where do you keep the dogs locked away from the prey? Luis laughed. Locked away? Rosie Duke! 2 dogs bounded over, one a border collie and another a large mixed breed. The cattle didn't scatter or show fear. They barely acknowledged the dog's presence. Rosie helps me herd the cattle, Luis explained. Duke guards them at night from wild predators like coyotes. The cows know the dogs. They're not afraid because the dogs don't hunt them. How? Shess moved closer to the fence. How do you train a predator not to hunt prey? Selection and trust, Luis said. We've bred herding dogs for thousands of years. They have the instinct to control the herd's movement but not to harm them. And they're trained from puppies to see the livestock as their responsibility, not their food. Rosie barked once, and several cows started moving toward another section of pasture. The dog ran in wide arcs, using her body position to guide the herd. Not once did she nip or threaten. The cows simply responded to her presence. Cooperation, Nimrith whispered. A predator and prey cooperating toward a shared goal. Exactly, Luis said. Now watch this. He walked into the pasture. Duke immediately followed, staying close to Luis's side. As they moved through the herd, several cows approached to be scratched or petted. Duke stood calmly, even when a curious calf sniffed at him. The prey don't fear the predator, Pip said, sounding dazed. And the predator doesn't hunt the prey. They're not predator and prey in this context, Rebecca said. They're all part of the ranch. Part of the family in a way. The next stop shocked the aliens even more. Helen took them to an urban area where a weekend farmer's market was happening. Hundreds of humans walked around buying food and goods, and among them dozens of dogs on leashes. This is a high-density population zone, Nimrith observed, yet predators move freely through crowds. They're pets, Helen said. Look, a small child, maybe 4 years old, ran up to a golden retriever. The dog's owner smiled and nodded. The child hugged the dog's neck. The dog's tail wagged so hard its entire back end moved. The child laughed, pure joy on her face. Did that child's parents just allow it to embrace a predator? Shess sounded horrified. That's probably a therapy dog, Rebecca said, pointing to the vest the dog wore. Trained specifically to be gentle with children. See how calm it is? How patient. They watched as several more children approached, all touching and petting the dog. The retriever seemed to glow with happiness, tail never stopping. I don't understand, Pip said quietly. Everything I know about predators says they should be aggressive near young prey. But this creature is gentle. Protective even. Dogs love children, Rebecca said. Many breeds have a natural instinct to protect and care for them. Helen led them to a nearby park where even more dogs played. There were small ones barely bigger than the aliens' hands and massive ones that stood waist-high to their humans. All ran around freely, playing with each other and with humans who threw balls and frisbees. This is a dog park, Helen explained, a place where dogs can socialize and exercise off-leash. Off-leash? Nimrith repeated. They're not restrained? Don't need to be, Helen said. They come when called. They stay in the designated area. And they're happy. A ball rolled near the alien delegation. A small terrier ran after it, then stopped when it noticed the aliens. The dog tilted its head, curious but not afraid. Pip slowly knelt down. Hello. The terrier wagged its tail and approached carefully. It sniffed Pip's offered wingtip, then licked it. It's greeting you, Rebecca said softly. It's not afraid, Pip whispered. I'm unknown, I'm strange, and it's not afraid. Dogs are social animals, Helen said. They want to make friends. The terrier's owner called it back and the little dog ran off. but Pip watched it go with something like wonder in their eyes. Their final stop that day was a marine research facility where Dr. Patricia Webb studied dolphin intelligence and behavior. The alien stood on a platform above a large pool where 3 dolphins swam. Dolphins are marine predators, Patricia explained. They hunt fish in coordinated groups. They're highly intelligent with complex communication and social structures. She knelt at the pool's edge and made a gesture. One dolphin swam over immediately. This is Echo, Patricia said, stroking the dolphin's head. We've worked together for 5 years. You're touching a marine predator, Shess observed. Voluntarily. Echo is my friend, Patricia said simply. She made another gesture and Echo dove underwater. Moments later, the dolphin breached, spinning in the air before splashing back down. Patricia laughed and clapped. Echo made a series of clicks that sounded pleased. We don't control them, Patricia explained. We work with them. Echo and the others help us with research. In return, they get enrichment, care, and interaction. It's a partnership. As the sun set on their first day on Earth, the alien delegation sat in a conference room overlooking the Denver skyline. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Nimrith broke the silence. I need to revise everything I thought I knew about predator-prey dynamics. We haven't hunted most of our food in thousands of years, Rebecca said. We domesticated prey animals for farming, and we befriended predators to help us along the way. Somewhere in all of that, we learned that the labels don't matter as much as the relationship. Labels, Pip repeated softly. We call them predators, and we can't see past that label. Humans see past a lot of labels, Helen said. It's one of our better qualities. Shess's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Tomorrow you mentioned visiting something called a sanctuary? Wolf Sanctuary, Rebecca confirmed, where we care for wolves that can't survive in the wild. Wolves, Nimrith said. The original species. The true predators. Yes, Rebecca said, because even with animals we don't fully domesticate, we still believe they deserve compassion and care. The aliens were silent again, processing a worldview that contradicted everything they'd believed about the natural order. Outside the window, a person walked their dog along the lit sidewalk. The simple, everyday sight now carried profound meaning. Somewhere in humanity's past, a wolf had chosen to trust, and humans had chosen to trust back. That single choice had changed everything. Morning light filtered through pine trees as the transport vehicle climbed into the mountains. Ranger Luis Mendoza drove while the alien sat in fascinated silence, watching the landscape change from city to wilderness. The sanctuary is about 15 miles from the nearest town, Luis explained. He wasn't the rancher from yesterday, but a wildlife conservation officer who'd worked with wolves for 20 years. We take in wolves that can't be released into the wild. Some were injured. Some were raised in captivity and never learned wild survival skills. A few were rescued from illegal exotic pet situations. Exotic pets? Nimrath's feathers ruffled. Humans keep wolves as pets? Some try, Luis said grimly. It never goes well. Wolves aren't dogs. They're wild animals that need specific conditions and expert care. That's why we have sanctuaries like this one. The vehicle pulled up to a facility built into the mountainside. High fences surrounded several large enclosures, each containing natural terrain with trees, rocks, and running water. In the parking area, a woman with graying hair and weathered hands waited. I'm Dr. Patricia Webb, she said. Different Patricia from the dolphin researcher, this one specializing in wolf behavior. Welcome to Mountain Sky Sanctuary. We currently care for 23 wolves in 7 pack groups. Pack groups? Shess asked. Wolves are intensely social, Patricia said. They need pack structure to thrive. We keep family groups together, or create new packs from compatible individuals. She led them to an observation deck overlooking the first enclosure. 4 wolves moved through the space below, ranging in color from black to gray to cream. They were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. This is the desert pack, Patricia said. Found them as pups after their mother was killed by a rancher. We raised them here. They're too habituated to humans for wild release, but they have a good life. One wolf, the cream-colored one, looked up at the deck, its yellow eyes fixed on the aliens with unnerving intensity. That's Ghost, Patricia said. Our most curious wolf. She's interested in new people. Interested how? Pip asked nervously. She wants to know who you are, where you come from, if you're a threat. Patricia smiled. Same things you're probably wondering about her. They moved to the next enclosure. This one held a single wolf, larger than the others and distinctly darker. This is Shadow, Patricia said, her voice softer. Found him 3 years ago in a cage barely bigger than his body. Someone thought they could keep a wolf in their basement. By the time we rescued him, he was malnourished, injured, and terrified of everything. Shadow paced along the fence line, movements restless. He's still recovering, Patricia continued. Physically, he's fine. Psychologically, he may never fully trust, but we keep trying. Why? Shess asked. If he cannot be released and cannot join a pack, why not end his suffering? Because he's alive, Patricia said simply. And while he's alive, he deserves the chance to heal, even if it takes years. Rebecca watched Nimreth study Shadow with intense focus. The scholar's translator caught his whispered words. You care for a damaged predator with no practical benefit. The benefit is knowing we didn't give up on him, Patricia replied. The group spent the morning observing different wolves. Patricia explained their behaviors, their social structures, their intelligence. The aliens saw wolves play fighting, grooming each other, napping in sunbeams. They saw the careful hierarchy within each pack and the complex communication through body language, vocalizations, and scent. They're like dogs, Pip observed, but different. Dogs evolved from wolves, Rebecca reminded them. But 40,000 years of living with humans changed them. Dogs have expressions wolves don't. They look to humans for guidance in ways wolves never would. They've adapted to understand us, and wolves haven't, Namrith asked. These sanctuary wolves have some habituation, Patricia said, but they're still wild at heart. Watch. She opened a gate and entered a small passage that led to an outdoor space separate from the main enclosures. A moment later, she opened another gate and 2 wolves trotted in. Ghost and another smaller wolf with reddish fur. This is Ember, Patricia said, Ghost's daughter. I helped deliver her when Ghost had complications during birth. These 2 trust me more than any other wolves here. Patricia sat on a log bench. Ghost approached immediately, sniffing her hands and pockets. Ember hung back, more cautious but curious. Can we approach? Pip asked. Absolutely not, Patricia said firmly. These wolves tolerate me because I've earned their trust over years. They don't know you. Ghost might be curious, but Ember would see you as a threat. Ghost looked up at the observation deck. Her eyes focused on each alien in turn, then on Rebecca and Bear, who stood at Rebecca's side as always. Something shifted in Ghost's body language. Her ears perked forward and she made a sound that was part whine, part chirp. Interesting, Patricia said. She's noticed your dog, Dr. Foster. Bear's ears were forward too, watching Ghost with intense interest. But he didn't bark or pull. He just watched, tail giving a slight wag. Can dogs and wolves interact? Nimrith asked. Sometimes in carefully controlled situations, Patricia said. They're the same species, genetically, but the behavioral differences can cause problems. Dogs play differently. They communicate differently. It's like putting someone who speaks fluent English with someone who speaks Middle English, close enough to maybe understand, but enough differences to cause confusion. Ghost turned in a circle and lay down, watching the observation deck with patient attention. Ember joined her and the 2 wolves rested together in companionable silence. This is what humans do, Shess asked quietly. You care for creatures that serve no function and pose potential danger? They serve a function, Patricia said. They teach us. They remind us that we're not separate from nature, and they deserve to exist for their own sake, not just for what they give us. After lunch, Louise took them on a hike through the surrounding forest. The path wound through pine trees and granite outcroppings, offering views of the valley below. This area has wild wolf packs too, Louise explained. We monitor them, make sure they're healthy. Sometimes we have to relocate them if they get too close to ranches or towns, but mostly we just let them be wolves. You allow predators to roam freely near human settlements? Nimreth sounded incredulous. We set up the settlements in their territory, Louise countered. They were here first. We try to coexist. It doesn't always work, but we try. They reached a rocky overlook. Louise pulled out binoculars and scanned the valley, then handed them to Rebecca. Northwest Ridge, he said. About 2 miles out. Rebecca looked, then smiled. I see them. She passed the binoculars to Pip, who adjusted them with their wingtips. What am I looking for? Small dark shapes moving through that meadow, Rebecca said. Pip found them and went very still. Wolves, wild wolves, on the Cascade Pack, Louise said. 12 members last count. They've been in this territory for 3 years. The binoculars went around. Each alien took a turn watching the distant wolves move through their natural habitat, hunting and traveling as they had for thousands of years. They live their lives completely separate from humans, Nimrith observed. Yet you protect them. We drove wolves to near extinction in North America, Louise said. Killed them because they threatened livestock, because we feared them, because we didn't understand their role in the ecosystem. Took us too long to realize that removing apex predators damaged everything. Now we're trying to fix our mistakes. By protecting the predators? Shess asked. By respecting the balance, Louise said. Wolves belong here. This is their home as much as ours. That evening, back at the sanctuary, Patricia gathered the group in a small amphitheater. The sun was setting, painting the sky in oranges and purples. I want you to experience something special, she said. Something that reminds me why I do this work. She cupped her hands around her mouth and howled. The sound echoed off the mountains, haunting and beautiful. For a moment, nothing happened. Then from the enclosures, wolves began to answer. First one, then another, until the sanctuary filled with a chorus of howls. Different pitches, different tones, all blending into something primal and ancient. The aliens stood frozen, listening to the song of wolves. When the howling faded, Pip spoke in a whisper. That was beautiful. Wolves howl to communicate, Patricia said. To locate pack members, to define territory, to bond. Scientists are still learning all the meanings, but everyone who hears it understands something fundamental. These are intelligent, social, emotional creatures. They love their families. They mourn their dead. They play and communicate and feel. Like humans, Pip said. All social creatures share certain traits, Rebecca added. The capacity for love, loyalty, grief. Dogs inherited these from wolves. And humans recognize them because we share them too. Back in their quarters that night, the alien delegation convened privately. Nimrith had pages of notes, but he set them aside. I need to say something, he began. When we arrived on Earth, I believed humans were either foolish or using some technology we didn't understand to control predators. After 2 days, I realized I was completely wrong. Wrong how? Shess asked. Humans don't control these animals, Nimrith said. They understand them. They recognize traits they share, and they choose to build relationships based on that recognition. They see themselves in predators, Pip said slowly, because they are predators. But they're also social. They're also capable of love and loyalty, so they can connect with creatures who share those traits. More than that, Nimrith continued, they've extended their social bonds beyond their species. Dogs are pack members. Wolves deserve protection. Dolphins deserve friendship. They don't see the universe as predator versus prey. They see it as a community where different creatures can find common ground. This could change everything, Shess said quietly. Every council species is defined by predator or prey status. It shapes our politics, our societies, our assumptions about others. But humans ignore those categories. Not ignore, Rebecca said from the doorway. They'd been listening. We recognize them, but we don't let them limit us. She walked in with Bear at her side. The aliens no longer flinched when he entered. Every species has the potential for violence and the potential for peace, Rebecca continued. Humans chose to look for the peace even in creatures with sharp teeth and hunting instincts. Maybe that makes us naive, or maybe it makes us hopeful. Hopeful, Pip repeated. Yes, that's what I see in all of this. Hope that different creatures can understand each other. Nimrith looked at Bear, who'd settled at Rebecca's feet. Your companion is a predator. You are a predator. Yet you've created peace between yourselves and dozens of other species. We've tried, Rebecca said. We don't always succeed. But we keep trying. Outside in the mountains, wolves howled again. The sound drifted through the open windows, wild and free. And in that moment, the aliens began to understand what made humans unique in the galaxy, not their technology or their strength, but their remarkable, stubborn, hopeful belief that friendship could cross any divide. Rain pattered against the windows of the small farmhouse in rural Colorado. Rebecca's husband, James, stood at the stove making breakfast, while their 2 children argued about whose turn it was to feed the chickens. It was the most normal morning imaginable, except for the 3 aliens sitting awkwardly at the kitchen table. Sophie, Luke, it's both your turn, James called without turning around. Work together. But she fed them yesterday. Luke protested, did not. You fed them yesterday and tried to skip today, Sophie shot back. Nimrith watched this exchange with fascination. Siblings always quarrel? Always, Rebecca said, pouring coffee. It's one of the universal constants. Tea for you, scholar? Please, Nimrith said. He'd grown fond of earth tea over the past few days. Pip sat very still, trying not to stare at the 3 dogs lying in various spots around the kitchen. A golden retriever named Sunny dozed by the back door. A small terrier named Scout watched the breakfast preparations with intense focus. And Bear, of course, stayed close to Rebecca. The biggest surprise was the cat. A large orange tabby named Mango sat on the windowsill, completely unbothered by the dogs, aliens, or general chaos. His tail swished lazily as he watched the rain. "I still don't understand the cats," Shess admitted. "Dogs were bred for cooperation, but cats are solitary hunters. Why do humans keep them?" "Because they're wonderful," Sophie announced, picking up Mango as she passed. The cat went limp in her arms, purring loudly. "Mango is the best cat ever." "Best is subjective," Luke said. "Max at Grandma's house is better." "Is not." "Is too." "Kids," James said in the tone of a parent who'd had this conversation many times. "Breakfast is ready. Go feed the chickens first." The children trudged to the back door, still bickering. Scout immediately followed them, tail wagging. Through the window, the aliens watched the children scatter feed for a dozen chickens while Scout sniffed around the edges of the yard. "The small predator guards the children while they feed the prey animals," Shess observed. "This entire household is a contradiction. Or a cooperation," James said, bringing plates to the table. "Scrambled eggs, toast, bacon. Hope everyone's okay with that." "From the chickens outside?" Pip asked. "The eggs, yes. Bacon's from a pig we don't raise." James sat down with his own plate. "We keep chickens for eggs mostly. They're pets as much as livestock." "Pets you eat?" Nimreth asked. "Some of them, eventually," James admitted. "It's complicated. We care for them, give them good lives, but we're also part of the food chain. Most humans don't raise their own food anymore, but we like knowing where ours comes from." The children returned, wet from the rain, and the family began eating. Conversation flowed around homework, a school project, weekend plans. The aliens sat quietly, absorbing the mundane details of human family life. After breakfast, Sophie approached Pip carefully. "Do you want to meet our other animals?" Pip's feathers fluffed with nervous excitement. "You have more?" "We have rabbits," Sophie said. "Come on." She led Pip outside to a hutch where 3 rabbits lived in a protected enclosure. The rabbits, seeing Sophie, hopped to the front of their space. "This is Clover, Pepper, and Snowball," Sophie said, opening the hutch to pet them. "They're super soft. Want to touch?" Pip extended one wingtip slowly. The white rabbit, Snowball, sniffed at it and then allowed Pip to stroke its fur. "Soft," Pip whispered. "It's so soft." "Rabbits are prey animals," Sophie explained with the confidence of a 9-year-old expert. "So we have to be gentle and make sure they feel safe. We can't let them run around outside because there are foxes and hawks that might hurt them. You protect prey from predators," Pip said. "Well, yeah," Sophie said, as if this was obvious. "They're ours. We take care of them." Luke appeared with Scout bouncing at his heels. "Want to see the coolest thing?" Before anyone could answer, he was running toward the pasture behind the house. 2 horses grazed there, both lifting their heads as Luke approached the fence. "This is Thunder and Lightning," Luke said. "We ride them sometimes. And this is Scout." He made a clicking sound and Scout jumped up onto the fence rail, balancing perfectly. The horses walked over, and Scout jumped down to run between their legs, tail wagging furiously. The horses lowered their heads to sniff the dog, completely calm. "Predator and prey again," Shess said, "playing together." "They grew up together," Luke explained. "Scout was a puppy when we got the horses. They're friends." Thunder, the larger horse, bent down further and Scout licked his nose. Thunder snorted but didn't pull away. "Everything in your home has relationships," Nimreth observed. "The children with the animals with each other. Even your dwelling cat with your dwelling predators. It's called a family," Rebecca said quietly. "Human families often include other species. Not always, but often. And for many of us, they're as important as human family members." That afternoon, while the children did homework and James worked in his office, Rebecca sat with the aliens in the living room. Sunny lay at her feet. Mango occupied her lap. Bear rested his head on the couch beside her. "I want to explain something," Rebecca began. "When I was in the accident that damaged my spine, I spent months in depression. Couldn't work, couldn't do the things I loved, felt useless. James and the kids tried to help, but I was drowning." She scratched behind Bear's ears. "Then we got Bear. He was trained as a service dog, yes, but he became so much more. He gave me purpose again. Someone needed me, depended on me, and he never saw me as broken or limited. To him, I was just his person. The predator healed you, Pip said softly. The friend healed me, Rebecca corrected. And I'm not unique. Millions of humans form these bonds. With dogs, cats, horses, birds, even reptiles. We have hospitals where volunteers bring therapy animals to comfort patients. We have programs where prisoners rehabilitate rescue dogs. We have veterans with PTSD who learn to live again because a dog gives them a reason to get up in the morning. This is what we missed, Nimrith said. We looked at the predator and saw danger. We should have looked at the relationship and seen healing. A timer went off in the kitchen. Cookies, Sophie yelled, running past with Luke close behind. We made them yesterday, Rebecca explained. The kids wanted to share Earth food with you. In the kitchen, the aliens tried chocolate chip cookies for the first time. Sophie watched anxiously until Pip declared them delicious. Scout sat nearby, receiving tiny pieces from Luke when no one was watching. Even your food rituals include the animals, Shess observed. Dogs love people food, Luke said. But we have to be careful. Some human food makes dogs sick. You must learn what's safe for them, Pip said. Another form of care. Taking care of pets is a big responsibility, Sophie added seriously. We have to feed them, clean up after them, make sure they're healthy and happy. It's work. But it's good work. As evening approached, the family gathered in the living room. Rain still fell outside. James lit a fire in the fireplace, and the children settled on the floor with board games. The animals found their preferred spots, dogs near their humans, cat on the back of the couch. This is what you wanted us to see, Nimrith said to Rebecca. Not the working dogs or the sanctuaries, this family life with animals as integral members. Yes, Rebecca said, because this is the truth of human-animal relationships, not the dramatic rescues or impressive training. Just everyday life shared across species. Sophie crawled over to Pip, who'd been watching the scene with all three eyes slightly unfocused. Are you okay? I'm thinking, Pip said. In my culture, we live in efficient housing with our clutchmates. Everything is organized for productivity. But this chaos, this noise and mess and emotion, there's something wonderful about it. It's called love, Sophie said simply. We love each other. That's what makes a family. Luke looked up from the game. Do you have families? We have clutchmates and colony units, Pip said. But not like this. Not with other species. Not with this much touching and proximity. Sunny rolled onto her back, paws in the air, begging for belly rubs. James obliged without thinking, his hand moving in practiced strokes while he talked to Nimrith about agriculture. Your species is constantly touching the animals, Shess observed. Physical contact seems important. Humans are touch-based in many of our relationships, Rebecca explained. We hug our children. We hold hands with partners. We pet our animals. Touch releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It makes us feel connected and safe. The same hormone you mentioned before, Nimrith said, released in both humans and dogs during interaction. And cats, Rebecca added as Mango pushed his head against her hand, demanding attention. And horses and probably most mammals we've bonded with. Physical affection creates chemical responses that reinforce the bond. Science supporting emotion, Pip said, and emotion creating behavior that benefits both species. Outside, the rain stopped. A rainbow appeared over the mountains, and Sophie insisted everyone come see. They crowded by the window, humans and aliens together, watching the colors arc across the sky. Bear barked once, tail wagging. Scout joined in. Even Sunny, normally quiet, gave a small woof. They're excited because we're excited, Luke explained to the aliens. Dogs feel what we feel. They want to be part of everything we do. Pack behavior, Nimrith murmured. You've extended pack membership beyond your species, and they've accepted you into theirs. That night, after the children were asleep, the adults sat around the kitchen table. James poured wine for the humans and prepared tea for the aliens. What have you learned? He asked Nimrith directly. The scholar was quiet for a long moment. I learned that predator and prey are labels, not destinies. I learned that intelligence and emotion exist across species barriers. I learned that humans have a remarkable capacity to see beyond categories to individuals. And I learned, Pip added, that family is a choice. You choose to include these animals in your lives. They choose to stay, and that mutual choice creates something precious. I have a question, Shess said. What happens when these animals die? They have shorter lifespans than humans. You form these deep bonds knowing you will lose them. The room went quiet. Rebecca's hand moved to Bear's head. It breaks our hearts, she said honestly. Every time. We know when we bring an animal into our family that we'll probably outlive them, and we do it anyway. Why? Shess asked. Because the love is worth the grief, James said. Because the years of companionship outweigh the pain of loss. Because they give us so much in their short lives that we can't imagine living without them. I had a dog before Bear, Rebecca said quietly. Her name was Grace. She died 3 years ago at 15. I still miss her, but I wouldn't trade those 15 years for anything. You accept pain for the sake of love, Nimrith said. Another trait we did not expect. Pain is part of love, Rebecca said. Any real relationship includes the risk of loss, but that risk makes the love more precious, not less. As the aliens prepared to leave the next morning, Sophie hugged Pip's wing. Luke shook Nimrith's talons solemnly. The adults exchanged formal farewells, but there was genuine warmth beneath the protocol. Thank you for sharing your home, Pip said. I will never forget this experience. You're welcome any time, James said. Our home is always open to friends. As they drove away, Pip looked back at the farmhouse. The family stood on the porch waving, animals around their feet looking exactly like what they were. A family bound by love that transcended species. I understand now, Pip said quietly. What makes humans special? What? Nimrith asked. They love bigger than their biology says they should. They care beyond what's practical. They find family in the most unlikely places. Pip's voice was filled with wonder. They look at teeth and claws and see potential friends. And somehow it works. The council chamber felt different now. Nimrith stood before the assembled representatives from hundreds of worlds, and for the first time in his career, he felt the weight of truly transformative information. Members of the Galactic Council, he began, I stand before you to present findings that challenge fundamental assumptions about social bonds, intelligence, and the nature of cooperation itself. The holographic display activated, showing footage from Earth, not dramatic scenes, but simple ones. A child reading to a dog, an elderly person walking with a cat, a veteran sitting quietly with a service animal. 7 days ago, I believed humanity's practice of maintaining predators as companions represented either dangerous naivety or some form of technological control. I was wrong on both counts. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Counselor Tallis leaned forward, his scales shifting color with interest. Humans have not controlled predators, Nimrith continued. They have formed genuine emotional bonds across species barriers. These bonds are supported by neurological evidence, behavioral observation, and 40,000 years of coevolution. The display showed brain scans comparing human and canine responses during interaction. The patterns matched in ways that made several scientists in the audience lean forward. When humans interact with their animal companions, both species release oxytocin, a bonding hormone. Their stress levels decrease in each other's presence. They respond to each other's emotional states. This is not training or conditioning. This is authentic mutual affection. Scholar Nimrith, a counselor from the herbivore worlds, called out. Are you saying predators can feel affection for prey species? I'm saying the categories of predator and prey become irrelevant in the context of social bonding, Nimrith replied. Dogs descended from apex pack hunters, yes. But humans are also persistence hunters. Both species are social, both are intelligent, and both have the capacity for loyalty and love. They recognized these traits in each other and built a relationship on that foundation. He showed footage of the farm, of horses and dogs coexisting peacefully, of chickens wandering while cats watched without hunting. Humans have domesticated dozens of species. They formed working partnerships with animals that help them hunt, herd, guard, and farm. But more importantly, they've formed emotional partnerships with animals that provide companionship, comfort, and joy. The display shifted to Sophie explaining her love for Mango the cat. Her simple, honest words about friendship carried more weight than any scientific paper. A human child explained to me that her cat is her best friend, Nimrith said. Not a tool, not a possession, a friend. And when I observed their interaction, I saw mutual affection that cannot be faked or programmed. Pip stood, asking permission to speak. Judge Morvan nodded. I am not a scientist, Pip said, voice wavering slightly. But I experienced something on Earth that changed my understanding of the universe. A small predator approached me, a creature that could have seen me as prey. Instead, it sought affection. It trusted me without reason, simply because I was gentle. Pip's feathers trembled with emotion. I have lived in a galaxy divided by predator and prey dynamics. I believed this division was absolute. But humans showed me that trust can cross any boundary, if both sides choose to build it. Counselor Chess rose next. I must add my observations. Human family units regularly include multiple species living in close proximity. These relationships are maintained not through control but through care, respect, and genuine affection. The amount of resources humans dedicate to animal welfare, from medical treatment to dedicated food production to end-of-life care, demonstrates a depth of commitment that defies practical explanation. Unless, Chess continued, we accept that humans truly consider these animals as family members, deserving of the same care as biological relatives. Talus stood slowly. The entire chamber went quiet. He'd been the most vocal opponent of humanity's practices. I need to make a confession, he said, his voice carrying across the room. I traveled to Earth convinced I would find evidence of human depravity or dangerous delusion. Instead, I encountered something I did not expect. He paused, scales shifting through several colors before settling on a soft blue. A dog approached me. I had shown hostility toward humans, suspicion toward their practices. Yet this creature offered me trust without condition. It asked nothing except kindness in return. For the first time in my life, Talus continued, I understood what humans mean by unconditional love, and I realized that perhaps the universe has room for relationships beyond our narrow definitions of predator and prey. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some counselors argued passionately for accepting the findings. Others raised concerns about the implications for galactic society. Judge Morven raised her hand for silence. We will hear from the Silent Watchers. A section of the chamber that had appeared empty suddenly revealed three figures. The Silent Watchers were an ancient species that observed galactic affairs but rarely intervened. Their presence alone indicated the significance of this moment. The central figure spoke, its voice like wind through canyons. In our 10 million years of observation, we have witnessed three species develop the capacity to form emotional bonds across biological barriers. Each time, this trait marked the species as unique peacekeepers and diplomats. These species became bridges between conflicting civilizations because they could see beyond surface differences to shared values and emotions. They ended wars through understanding rather than force. They built alliances through empathy rather than convenience. The Silent Watcher gestured toward the human delegation. Humanity exhibits this rare gift. They look at apex predators and see potential friends. They extend compassion to creatures that could harm them. This is not weakness. This is profound strength. We recommend humanity be granted cultural treasure status, protecting their unique practices. Furthermore, we propose humanity join the Council's Conflict Resolution Committee, where their perspective would be invaluable. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Cultural treasure status was rarely granted. Position on the Conflict Resolution Committee was one of the Council's highest honors. Ambassador Okonkwo stood, placing his hand over his heart in a human gesture of gratitude. We accept these honors with humility and responsibility. We hope our perspective can help build bridges across the galaxy as we've built them on Earth. Judge Morven called for a vote. The results were overwhelming. Humanity would be recognized not as dangerous anomalies, but as valuable members of galactic civilization with much to teach others. As the formal session concluded, something unprecedented happened. Counselors from different species began approaching the human delegation, not with fear but with curiosity. They asked about specific animals, about training methods, about the experience of cross-species bonding. Pip found Rebecca in the crowd. Dr. Foster, I have a request. I would like to remain on Earth as an exchange student. I want to learn more about human-animal relationships, and I want to adopt a dog. Rebecca smiled warmly. We'd be honored to help you find the right companion. I will need guidance, Pip said nervously. I have no experience with predators as friends. You have experience with friendship, Rebecca said. That's all you really need. The rest we can teach you. Scholar Nimrith approached with his own request. My world would like to establish a cultural exchange program. We want to learn from humanity's example. Not to copy it exactly, but to explore if we might form our own cross-species relationships. We'll help however we can, Okonkwo said. Though I should warn you, adopting a pet is a long-term commitment. We understand, Nimreth said. We've watched humans care for animals through illness, old age, and death. We've seen the grief and the joy. If we pursue this path, we'll do so with full knowledge of the responsibility involved. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. Several council species requested information about animal companionship programs. Research teams wanted to visit Earth. Cultural exchanges were proposed. Most surprising was Talus. He submitted a formal request to adopt a dog, specifically asking for guidance on caring for a rescue animal with behavioral challenges. I want to earn the trust of a creature that has no reason to trust, he explained to Rebecca. If I can do that, perhaps I can better understand how to build trust between species on a larger scale. Rebecca connected him with rescue organizations on Earth. Within a month, Talus had adopted a three-legged shepherd mix named Hope, who'd been abused by her previous owner. The image of the stern council member gently coaxing a scared dog from her kennel spread across the galactic net, sparking conversations on hundreds of worlds. 6 months after the inquiry, Rebecca stood in her Colorado home with Pip, who'd successfully adopted a golden retriever puppy named Sunshine. The young alien struggled with the leash while the puppy investigated every smell with enthusiasm. She's very energetic, Pip said, slightly overwhelmed. Puppies are, Rebecca laughed. But she'll calm down as she grows, and the energy is part of the joy. Sunshine spotted Bear and bounded over, tail wagging frantically. Bear, with the patience of an older dog, allowed the puppy to jump and play around him. They're already friends, Pip observed. Bear accepts Sunshine without hesitation. Dogs usually love other dogs, Rebecca said. Social creatures recognizing their own. Like humans recognizing us, Pip said quietly. You saw past our differences to the similarities. A message came through on Rebecca's communicator. It was from Nimreth sharing a video from his homeworld. Several young members of his species sat in a circle while a trained dog, carefully introduced over weeks of preparation, moved among them. The aliens touched the dog tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. The dog's tail wagged constantly, delighted by all the attention. First contact between our species and canines, Nimreth's message read. The beginning of understanding. More messages came in over the following days. Shess reported that several insectoid species were exploring mutualistic relationships with other creatures. A herbivore world had successfully introduced small companion animals into family units. A predator species traditionally isolated was studying cooperative hunting with trained birds. The galaxy was changing, slowly, carefully, but definitely changing. Ambassador Okonkwo presented the findings at the next full council meeting. Humanity didn't invent cross-species friendship, he said. We just never learned to see such friendship as impossible. We looked at the galaxy the way we look at dogs, with curiosity about what we might share rather than fear of what makes us different. Now, he continued, dozens of species are exploring similar relationships, learning that predator and prey are biological roles, not absolute identities. Discovering that cooperation can exist where competition was assumed inevitable. Judge Morven spoke from her seat. Humanity has given the galaxy a gift, not technology or resources, but perspective. The understanding that relationships can transcend biology if we choose to build bridges instead of walls. She paused, then added, in my 300 years on this council, I have witnessed many species join our civilization, but none have transformed it as quickly or as profoundly as humanity. The session concluded with announcements of new cultural exchange programs, research initiatives, and diplomatic positions for humans who would serve as advisors on cross-species cooperation. As Rebecca and Bear walked through the station corridors that evening, they passed aliens of all types. Many now stopped to ask about Bear, to request permission to approach to share stories of their own nascent relationships with animals. Pip joined them, Sunshine trotting happily at her side. The puppy had a universal effect. Even species that had never considered animal companionship smiled at her enthusiasm. Do you know what I realized? Pip said. When humans first arrived with dogs, we thought you were bringing weapons. We were terrified of the predators among us. Now look. They paused at a viewport showing the council plaza below. Several species walked together, some with newly adopted companion animals. A group of young aliens sat in a circle while a therapy dog visited with them under careful supervision. "You brought the opposite of weapons," Pip said. "You brought teachers. Teachers of trust, of empathy, of how to love across differences." Rebecca watched the scene below. Bear pressed against her leg in his familiar way. "We just shared what we knew. That friendship doesn't require similarity. It just requires openness and willingness to understand." "Your species looked at killers and saw friends," Pip said, echoing words from months ago. "Now the galaxy is learning to do the same, not just with animals, but with each other." Below, a counselor from a predator species sat beside one from a prey species, a small dog between them. Both reached down to pet the animal, their hands nearly touching. 6 months ago, such proximity would have been unthinkable. Now it was becoming normal. "Do you think it will last?" Pip asked. "This change?" Rebecca considered the question seriously. Change is never easy. There will be challenges, setbacks, species that reject the idea entirely. But yes, I think it will last. Because once you've experienced genuine friendship across barriers you thought impossible, you can't go back to believing those barriers are absolute. Sunshine yipped at a passing alien, tail wagging. The alien, who would have fled in fear months ago, paused to smile at the puppy. "Besides," Rebecca added, scratching Bear's ears, "dogs have a way of winning hearts. Give the galaxy time. Give them patience. Give them puppies. The rest will follow." As they continued through the station, passing newly designated pet areas and posted guidelines for animal care, Rebecca felt something she hadn't expected when this journey began. Hope. Not just for human-animal relationships, but for all relationships across the galaxy. If species could learn to befriend their supposed natural enemies, maybe they could learn to work together in ways previously unimaginable. Maybe the divisions that had defined galactic civilization for millennia could soften. Maybe, just maybe, humanity's gift to the stars wasn't technology or science. Maybe it was simply the radical notion that anyone could be a friend if you approached them with an open heart. Bear looked up at her, and Rebecca could swear he understood exactly what she was thinking. Then again, after 40,000 years of partnership, maybe dogs had always understood humans better than humans understood themselves. And that, Rebecca reflected, was exactly how the best friendships worked.